Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Game of Thrones Winter's Coming. We recently had a new update for the game, which was focusing around fixing some bugs and issues that were in the game, and at the same time they also started to, or did some life changes for the game, decent small upgrades. One of those changes were including the icons for which type it is on the weapons, which can be seen here. They have added a little icon in the left corner now, bottom left corner, which of course makes it easier to identify what kind of weapons you have in your inventory or what kind of weapons you're getting. And they also added new weapons through the Archery Event, as you can see here, where you can basically see there's a Spirit Bear weapon now, there's a Dance of Water weapon, and the Oathkeeper's weapon as well. And this video is kind of going into focusing around what those weapons actually do, how they benefit, and what commanders they are basically for. And yeah, that's kind of what we are going to look through today, so we'll just switch right over to the weapons. For this video specifically, I will have a new editing style because we have two separate things that are connected, and to kind of get a bit idea of how these things basically affect each other, I will have the Commander Awakening skill on the left side of the screen, which will be a pre-recorded video, while I will have the weapon effect on the right side of the screen, and then I will basically talk through the weapon and how it affects the commander and the skill as well, and that will be kind of it. But the first weapon that we have here is Oathkeeper, which is focused around Jaime. And Jaime's Awakening skill is basically, as you can read on the left side, when allied lineups receive healing, the lineup's normal attack changes to weakness attacks for 5 seconds. Weakness attack status basically attacks the enemy lineup with the most troops lost and cannot miss. For every one weakness attack taken by target lineup, weakness damage taken +3. So basically something that gives you an additional defensive buff, but also an offensive buff. As you can see on the right side now, the Oathkeeper is of course a red weapon, but it has a spearman attack 27.5% and total health on 6.88%. And this weapon basically starts out at level 1 without any stars with these stats, and has has 4 random buffs available, which of course matters a lot. This also indicates that apparently pay-to-win commanders have highest base stats on their weapons compared to free-to-play, because Oath, which is Crystal's weapon, had only 25%, and I believe it was 6% total health. So there's definitely a jump up there, so keep that in mind as well. Might also be 6.5% health, but yeah. Either way, there's also the special effect in terms of Jaime Lannister's Awakening skill, which is that Warsaw Awakening skill, which is the Awakening skill, Hear Me Roar, which is the skill that I also just read up about, changed to when allied lineups receive healing, the lineup's normal attack changes to weakness attack for 5 seconds, attacks the enemy lineup with the most troops lost and cannot miss. For every one weakness attack taken by target lineup, weakness damage taken +3.5. which is a 0.5 increase in terms of how the basic Awakening skill of course works, and the 4-star unlocks of course the 5k extra army size, which is also nice. But main thing is his Awakening skill gets buffed with like 0.5% or 0.5 rather, and that's a decent buff, I would say, since the Awakening skill is somewhat static. It's relatively easy to get to proc, so it's a decent buff in that regard. Next up is the Sinara weapon, Dance of Water, and to the left you can see the Sinara Awakening skill Fearless Advancement, which is basically that when allied melee troops use normal attacks, there's a 70% chance of attacking 1 additional time with a damage coefficient of 30%, and a 20% chance of attacking 2 additional times with a damage coefficient of 20%. However, allied troops are silenced and excited, and the silence status basically means that commanders are unable to cast active army skills, while excited means that the troops are unable to initiate weakness attacks against the weakest lineup. So it's basically you could call a basic attack steroid for the commanders, for the troops that are there, and that's basically a 20% chance they can do double attacks instead of a single attack, or triple attack rather. So it's a pretty decent lineup for certain commanders and certain commander lineups. Her weapon, of course, focuses around infantry attack, 27.5%, and total health. So it's basically just the infantry version of like Jamie's weapon. Also has 4 random attributes that you can get to, and then the special effect of her awakening skill being enhanced with the sword as well. And basically this changes the awakening skill so when allied melee troops use normal attacks, there's a 70% chance of attacking 1 additional time, which is the same as before with a damage coefficient of 30%. A 20% chance of attacking 2 additional times with a damage coefficient of 30%, which is 10% higher than actually the previous one was in there. And a 10% chance of attacking 3 additional times with a damage coefficient of 30%. However, allied troops are silenced and excited, and you already know how the silent and excited part is affecting. And then of course there's also the 5k army size if you get the weapon to 4-star. So personally I would say this, in terms of RNG, this is a pretty huge thing. 10% chance is of course not that high, but getting 3 additional attacks off is basically means that you're attacking 4 times. And the fact that they have increased the damage coefficient for the 2 times attack as well, 10% by 10% means that there's a higher chance or much higher base damage output from this, but it becomes much more of a RNG situation where you are not sure if you actually get the 2 times proc, 3 times proc, or 1 time proc for that matter. So overall it's I would say it's a higher damage output or higher damage reward to get from this one compared to the Jamie one, but the Jamie one is less RNG based, so it's more basic, or it's more, how to say it, it's more easier to actually gauge how strong it is compared to this one where it's more RNG based, where you have to be lucky to actually get the extra hits proc for this specific weapon. But nonetheless I would say it's slightly stronger than the Jamie one, but it's also more irregular and can also be weaker. The last weapon that was added is the Spirit Bear weapon for Layla. And once again you can see to the left her awakening skill, which is the Mama Bear's Frenzy. When your female commanders use the active skills, the skill will have a 30% chance of being used 2 times, a 10% chance of being used 3 times, and a 3% chance of being used 4 times. So basically it's a more of a active skill steroid for commanders, if you have female commanders of course, than it is, for example, with Inara, it's more troop attack based, and Jamie where it's more weakness attack healing based instead. Her weapon Spirit Bear basically focused like Jamie and Inara with 6.88% total health, and then also has 27.5% cavalry attack, which is basically the equivalent to the other 2 weapons, and of course has 4 random attributes like the other weapons as well. The weapon of course comes with an upgrade to the awakening, which is quite simple. First of all, you can see here that when your female commanders use their active skills, the skills will have a 40% chance of being used 2 times, which is a 10% chance higher than originally. A 10% chance of being used 3 times, which is basically the same, I believe. And a 3% chance of being used 4 times. So overall it doesn't seem like there's a huge increase. There's a 10% chance of it actually triggering for an extra time or for 2 times instead. Personally I would say I like this weapon the least out of the 3, but then again I also know that the female comps can be extremely strong with the right setup and the right counters, so I can understand why they might be holding a little bit back on the percentages for 3 times or 4 times. But overall I would probably categorize this weapon as the weakest one out of the 3 in terms of the buffs, while I would probably say Sinara is the strongest one and Jamie is the more stable one, because this one basically increases the 2 times by 10%, and the RNG of it isn't really removed at all. 10% chance of course is big, but in the grand scheme of things it's probably not something compared to the cost it actually costs to get the weapon. I doubt it's really worth highly investing in, or at least getting, unless you're lucky to just land on it and get it, of course take it. And the 4-star effect is, of course, like the other weapons, also 5k army size extra. So all in all, the weapons are decent. They have some higher stats compared to the other weapons that we have in the game, and they of course increase certain awakening skills from commanders as well. So personally I would say, if you land on it, be happy. Not many have them. If you don't land on it, don't be unhappy about it. There's probably other chances where you will get it, but yeah. Before we finish off, we will just take a look at the events where you can get them. So before we are finishing off, we can take a look at the Arrow event. Basically, it's a high spender event in my opinion. You can see there are various rewards that you can get from it, and I believe that, as you can see, the main weapon one is basically randomized, and the chests that you have here besides are not even guaranteed to give you the red weapons, but they have a higher chance of dropping red weapons or gold weapons for that matter. But of course it's randomized, and if you want to have the basic selection, you have to get the 300 arrows used here, and you basically have the option for one single arrow for 8k blue diamonds, and the rest will have to be bought by 40 black diamonds. So it's a rather expensive investment. I personally would say I can't afford it, but if you can, go for it, of course. And the weapon locking ore is of course also available. These ores that you can get here basically makes it so that you can lock a random attribute instead on one of your weapons, so that when you try to reroll for new random attributes for your weapon, then that specific one that you have locked won't be randomized and will stay the same, which is a pretty good thing. So even if you land on that one, I would take it. I personally would really want to have them, but they will probably come in the future in form of packs or other stuff, and this also kind of confirms that we will get several other weapons at some point, and that there will probably be ways to actually get the weapons other than the fiery mine. But overall, I think that the weapons will probably play a big role in the game in the future, and there will probably also be more weapons coming in the future as well. It's just a matter of time, because if they're going for all commanders, then both commanders will obviously also have some. But yeah, I hope you liked the video. Like and comment if you want to, subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you want to play the game, there's going to be a link in the description below for the game, as well as the Game of Thrones when it's coming Discord group, and the music or the YouTube channel where I get my music from as well. And yeah, I hope you all have a great weekend. Enjoy the game, enjoy the weekend, enjoy your families, and yeah, have a nice time. Hope you all have a good time. Yeah. Bye bye.